So, David, what are some of the best ways for our audience and ways they could think about segmenting their own list?
You can go narrow, you can go broad. So on the geographic part, you can see different ways of doing it. We have international clients, and some of them need to segment by country because of language purposes. So someone who speaks French should not be getting an email in Spanish, for example. Age could be part of it. The demographic, are they married or not married? What kind of job they're in? I particularly find behaviors and actions very helpful, especially because Constant Contact has some specific tools, which we'll get into in just a moment, but really allows you to segment people based on how they're interacting and behaving with your emails. There are even some very special automatic features within the Constant Contact system that lets you know which people on the email list are interacting in certain ways with each email. On the nonprofit side, it might be people who have made donations or not. You can segment by size of donation, people who are volunteers within your organization and people who are not. So again, give thought to how you were to separate or segment people in your email list based on the messaging that you think is more effective for them. I see a question here about internal emails to employees. And a similar thing, you might have senior employees or more junior employees. You might have employees on the East Coast or West Coast of different offices, employees who have had a certain type of training or not. Again, think about how you would group those people.
Great. So many different ways you can go about it. And because of that, it's probably going to look a little bit different. So let's walk through a few more specific examples for different types of businesses or organizations. And we'll start with nonprofits. David?
Sure. So I briefly touched upon it a moment ago, but it's really a question of the easiest one is donors and non-donors. So someone who has made a donation, you may want to acknowledge it in the messaging. You might want to say it's great. Maybe you have an email for people who have made a donation to increase the donation. So thank you for your donation of $100. Would you consider an additional $20? Or would you consider a monthly program? If people are not donors, then you move into would you consider making your first donation? And there are different ways of doing that. Segment based on how much they contributed. What if they're a volunteer? What if they're a board member, maybe a volunteer board member, thanking them for their work? Remember, not all emails are necessarily there to sell or to get a donation. So for volunteers and board members, it could simply be a thank you email. Right? Again, think of how to group people in a way that where they have something in common.
Definitely. Thank you for that. What about those who are in a business-to-business space or B2B? What are some example ways they could segment?
Again, it's a question of products. So I might sell products that cater to women and products who cater to men. That's an easy way to segment. Based on the product. You don't even necessarily have to know the gender, but just what they have purchased in the past. Maybe you're B2B and you sell to a specific industry, or the size of the customer. Are they spending $1 million with you for a year or $10,000, right? So different messaging there. Maybe it's a question of customers who are not engaged, and engaged could be whether they've never opened an email or they haven't purchased from you. There are different ways of doing that. And let's say a customer purchased a piece of machinery, and there are services and additional products that you can offer for that machinery. So you can say, hey, dear customer, you bought machine XYZ. We have a service plan for maintenance, or we have this other attachment that will make the machine work better, things like that. And the segmentation can be done that way. How to physically segment? There are basically two main areas. One is three main areas, sorry. You can physically go through your email list and mark people based on how they should be segmented. You can use the automatic tools within the Constant Contact system, or you can use information from another system, such as your CRM, that gives you additional information that allows you to segment the list.
Thanks. And Jen, I see your question. How do you segment if this information is not part of a contact's info? We're going to go through that here in a couple of minutes, where you can find some existing information, or if you really do, in fact, need to collect that information. We'll go through all the different ways. What about for those folks who are in retail or selling items online via e-commerce?
That's almost a very easy way to segment based on what they purchase. So if they purchase a particular item, they are interested in that type of product. So you might want to upsell them and cross-sell them with a product relevant to what they already bought. If they never bought, there's another message that goes out for them for that. If you are in e-commerce and your e-commerce platforms such as Shopify, WooCommerce, or WooCommerce, for example, and BigCommerce, those integrate with Constant Contact. So you can have a feed that automatically communicates to those people based on their cart abandoned, for example, or their search abandoned. There are all different ways of basically slicing the pie, especially with e-commerce, because they have so much data.